Hello.
Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to the BAMF podcast. I am your very sunburned host, Mike Lafferty, here to talk to you about superhero RPG releases. But before all that, here is. Almost hit a twofer on that. And that high quality musical introduction assures you this is a high quality podcast, high production values, only the finest production values. God damn it. And we're here talking about superhero releases with our friend Jacob Blackman,
Hello.
freelance artist famous in the RPG industry for his work. Jacob, let's talk about your Kickstarter, which, as far as I can tell, hey, it's Steve Kenson.
Hey, Steve. Loading in.
We'll be here soon. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Steve.
Sorry, I'm running a little late.
I don't know. We're on the air right now, just FYI.
Cool.
We were also supposed to have Owen here, but if you saw last night's episode of the BAMF podcast where we're talking about Dungeons & Dragons media, you know that he was having some connection issues, and apparently that persisted through today.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It is a bummer. But, Owen Joe joined us in the comments, and that was kind of cool. So, hey, Sean Vera. Good evening. Love the new Kickstarter, Jacob. Love the first book, so I had to go back for the second.
Appreciate it, Sean. I hope that this will be just as good, if not better.
For anyone who's just tuning in, who's not familiar with SPL, let's go ahead. I can talk about it, but Jacob, it's a lot more interesting if you set it up for our viewers and tell us what's going on there.
Okay. Superpowered Legends is my homage to general comic book universe, but primarily aimed at the Marvel universe. When Mutants and Masterminds 3rd edition was initially launched, it was launched as the DC Universe role-playing game by Green Ronin.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had all the DC characters written up, and it was magnificent. It was a really good series of books. And people were like, "Oh, this would be so good if someone did all the Marvel characters." But I don't think they were that Green Ronin was going to be looking at doing another IP so soon after that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I had done a bunch of Marvel characters on, at the time, was the Atomic Think Tank. And Rogue Genius director Owen Casey Stevens said, "Hey, if you take these character builds and you file off the serial numbers, give them entirely new names and backgrounds, but you keep the write-ups, we could probably do something with this. And that way people could technically have quote-unquote Marvel character builds." And that's what these are. These are homage to Marvel character builds. If you want to have a character who has spider powers, we have that covered for you. If you want to have a patriotic shield-wielding character, we have that for you. So, and the majority of all those very popular characters went into the original line of Superpowered Legends, and we collected those in our first source book. It has been 7 years since that source book was initially Kickstarter, funded, and published. And we felt it is now time to produce Volume 2 with all the characters that I have done in the interim since that book and now. So yeah, we're putting together over 200 character builds. I've also included some new things in there. I've expanded the timeline. I've written more passages, not only for the timeline of the 7 years that have happened since then, but also more information in between and before in the prehistory.
So, Jacob,
yeah.
Do you find as the universe continues to expand that it gets more challenging to keep everything in order?
Oh, absolutely. I when I had initially done Superpowered Legends and I had my timeline originally set, I could tell you exactly what historical event happens where. And now that I've done many more characters since then, and having to fit them into place and fit them into the history, I can't keep that just in my mind anymore. I
Right.
have to go to my reference document. It's like, okay, when did that happen? Oh, that was in 2014. Okay, right.
Yeah, I find that's a real challenge once a setting starts to balloon.
hmm So yes, Superpowered Legends Volume 2. We're kickstarting that right now. The project has funded, and not only that, but we have also funded to the point where we have hit our first stretch goal, which is adding the mystical land of Avalon to the World Information book chapter. And that's going to include things like the legendary sword Excalibur, the protector of the multiverse, Merlin's daughter, and several other fun fantasy themed elements that are associated with the realm of Avalon. And there's the sword itself, looking all cool and green tinged.
Now that's rock. Who's aspecto? Walk in. Sorry.
Oh no, you're not wrong. I love that movie, and it certainly inspired what I drew.
Yeah. Who's this charming fellow?
This is the Nightborn. This is the enforcer of Mordred.
Mm.
And Mordred for Superpowered Legends, I used the build for Malekith, who is the dark elf from Thor's villain group. And so, with him filling that niche, I wanted his enforcer to, of course, be like Curse, who is Algrim the Strong. So I created a character that was in a similar vein. Uh, the Nightborn is the offspring of a troll and a dark elf maiden, who is a super powerful troll because of his high fairy lineage.
Mm.
And he wears heavy armor to protect him from uh, any iron weapons being able to strike his flesh, because otherwise he is invulnerable.
Sounds like a formidable foe.
Indeed.
And here we have the cover with that new trade dress, and that is some nice looking art.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I did this based on a cover from the Avengers Forever, which is absolutely my top Marvel storyline ever. It's the series that made me love Kang the Conqueror, because previous to that, Kang was really a joke villain to me. How could this time traveling guy constantly be flubbing as much as he did? And then this story came out, and I was like, wow, Kang's neat.
Yeah.
And the art for that, I'm trying to, was it Carlos Pachenko?
Yeah, Carlos Pacheco did the art, and it was Busiek doing writing.
Yeah. But Carlos's art was so good in that. It was so amazing.
Indeed.
And this is an homage to one of his cover illustrations. I love his work so much. I wanted to do something similar based on his lovely work.
Mm.
Jacob and I talk about what heroes and villains should be on the cover. Yeah, originally I had a couple of heroes when I was originally drawing this, and sent and sent Owen the rough draft. I had a couple of heroes from the first book, and Owen was like, "Shouldn't we be featuring the heroes and villains of the new book?" And I was like, "Yes, you're right." And so I redrew the the characters and now everyone who is featured here on the cover is going to be featured in Sourcebook Volume 2.
Nice.
And Owen says, I want an alternate time Kang. Who is a gorilla? Kang Kong.
Yes. Absolutely. Because gorillas on the cover sell. And
Yes.
what would be better than a time-traveling gorilla villain?
A
giant
Time-traveling.
kaiju-sized time-traveling villain gorilla. King Kong, yeah.
I'm here for it.
So, you guys have funded, and never go wrong. You can't go wrong with a gorilla, unless my Krav Maga class last night. The teacher was upset at talking about fighting various primates, and he just, do you guys think you could take on a chimpanzee? Well, no. I've read those news stories. No, you cannot take on a chimp. That's a bad fight. You don't want that bad. No.
Mm.
He's like, what about a silverback? Are you high? Why are you asking these questions? What's wrong with you? You don't fight a silverback. You run. I don't. It's yeah. Owen, I do love when people say yes. Owen, you're right. Oh, I can understand. Yeah. Well, hey, can we pivot and talk about Steve's new release real fast?
Unless people have any specific questions they want to ask, yeah, certainly.
Okay, well, just real fast, let me say tinyurl.com/superpoweredlegends. Take you right to the Kickstarter, and you've got time. It has got, I want to say, 3 weeks left. Yeah, you guys are 4 days in, 26 days left. You are.
Yeah, we just started this.
Right.
It's a month-long campaign, and we literally just started 4 days ago.
Yeah, and it looks like you are almost 1,000 over goal right now. So we're not going to do stretch goals. So
if you know you're going to get it, you might as well sign up now.
Yeah, no point in waiting. The money isn't taken from your wallet until the campaign ends.
I speak as a early backer myself, so
I appreciate your vote and your pledge.
If you like Marvel Comics, maybe you're not a fan of the current iteration of that license system. If you like Mutants and Mastermind, there haven't been a ton of big releases lately. This is a way to scratch both those itches.
Indeed.
Owen says yes, and take on Silverback with tanks and jet fighters.
Yes, that is the only proper way to take on Silverbacks.
That would be the right way to do it.
I could take on a Silverback in a poetry jam. Maybe in a baking contest. I expect to join the first edition. Good a cuff, Jason. Good a cuff, Jacob. What's a cuff? Help me out, Don. Was that a typo?
I do not know what a cuff means.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to give it.
But whatever it is, you're doing it well.
You make it look good there, buddy. Well, let's talk about Icons, which is a perennial favorite on this podcast.
Yes.
Hang on. What rhymes with book?
Gorilla Poetry Jam. Right? Book. Yeah, there you go.
That's a game I'm going to write one day, Gorilla Poetry Jam. All right, let me share this beautiful band.
Heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, I heard it here first. This is Icons Annual 4.
Annual 4.
All right.
Yeah.
A beautiful looking cover.
Just like Jacob was talking about it being 7 years since the first Superpowered Legends, I can't believe that the Icons Patreon is entering its 5th year now. And Annual 4 is a collection of the Year 4 material from last year. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's a devoted fan base there. There really is.
There is.
Well, Icons is a good system. It's easy to pick up and easy to play.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative of the folks on the Icons Patreon providing me, the motivation to do stuff every month.
Hey, Steve, I don't know if you know this about me, but I am a consummate professional.
Indeed.
When it comes to this podcast. And to prove that, I have created a tiny URL for your book. tinyurl.com/iconsannual4. Because I can say it on the air easily. And I can say, hey, listeners on iTunes, go check out Steve's book right now at tinyurl.com/icons annual 4. So you should check it out. It looks like a fun book. And I didn't mean to kill the conversation dead by grandstanding about my professionalism, but there it is.
Well, as someone who does not follow every Icons post you make, what all is in this?
So, like the other Icons annuals and the content from the Patreon thus far, Annual 4 is pretty much a grab bag of various articles ranging from time travel in Icons, speaking of time traveling supervillains and the like, to pulp era and Wild West campaign frameworks, a couple of game system variants, including one on how to do icons using a D20, if you're so inclined. If you want to, make use of your 20-sided dice instead of your 6-sided dice for it. It's this particular annual is a little unusual in that it has a couple of adventures in it. One adventure called Minions of the Ultramind that I wrote for a convention initially, and another called the Icon Incident that is included in the Icons Quick Start as well. So it's pretty eclectic as per usual. This year for the Patreon, I'm focusing on a particular theme I'm calling adventure archetypes, which has been to take a particular type of superhero adventure and focus on sort of a general framework for it and a bunch of different variants and information about how to run different versions of it and the like. The first one of those, called This is a Stick-Up, appropriately enough, just released this month, and is all about heists and robberies and sort of the classic superhero adventure of, someone is robbing a bank, a jewelry store, a museum, what have you. And the heroes intervene, and the various sort of variations and permutations you can play out with that, in terms of the robbery itself, the chase scene as the bad guys try to escape, the distractions they may throw the heroes' way, what happens if they take hostages, et cetera, et cetera. And basically it's a sort of a adventure cookbook, for game masters to put together their own, scenarios out of. Next month's is called Journey to Inner Space, and is all about adventures where the heroes get shrunk.
Oh no! Okay.
I like, as a fan of Micronauts, I am here for that.
Yeah.
And Owen had a pretty good joke about 3 minutes ago that I missed when you were talking about the variant for D20. He said that would be great if you suffer from an addiction.
Oh.
Yes. The article is called Iconsohedron.
Okay.
So we great minds, as always, are thinking of terrible puns.
Hey, wordplay is always welcome.
So, Steve, Icons has been a journey. I started writing third-party material for Icons a decade ago. Actually, no, a decade and a half ago. I wasn't married yet, and I have a 12-year-old now. So it's,
I hear you. Icons Annual 4 is the 15th book I have published for Icons in terms of a full print-on-demand books, not counting short adventures and other sorts of things. So, yeah, I hear you.
What have you learned along the way about Icons, the Icons fan base, and the whole thing? Looking back on that after this decade and a half.
Well, I got to say, for a game that was originally designed and put together as sort of a one-off pickup game, it has proven very adaptable. I haven't run out of things to write about for it, and I don't expect to, and certainly in the next year at least. So it's been really pretty cool that the game has had as much stamina as it's turned out to have.
That is pretty cool. Has it changed your approach to adventure writing at all, or setting design, or anything? Or
Somewhat. I do think that I have a little bit more of a simpler approach to adventure writing in some regards. Icons adventures tend to be fairly um, quick, comparatively speaking, and I've found that actually seems to work pretty well for superhero adventures.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's a stopping block where I have found some issues. I want to be writing adventures for superpowered legends. It's just all the adventures I can think of are these big, giant, grandiose things. I need simple plots.
Mm-hmm.
I need some simple ideas.
Yeah, I get that, and honestly, that's been one of the fun things about a lot of Icons adventures are that sort of thing. There's definitely a lot. I mean, there are definitely a few sort of epic adventures, but there's a lot of the creeper, who's the plant control guy, is taking over the downtown with mutant vines, and it's like defeating him is like the main thing of the adventure. And it's a lot more of those sort of one-off comic book story type adventures than something that is a big epic series.
Yeah, I tend to go simple in adventure design. I mean, I started off writing some mastermind stuff for third party. Then I focused on icons for years, and I think just given a wide variety of powers and characters you can get in superhero adventure, writing it more simply and giving the GM more time to improvise, it works out better for me anyway. I don't know for everybody else. And Owen weighs in and says, seriously, we have 61 Iconic Legends products. Iconic Legends being the icons conversions of SPL. The Kickstarter to make a compiled POD and to fund converting more material. That is a pretty good idea.
I think that would be a fine product to do once we're finished with this one. Absolutely.
No, Jacob, right now.
I can only write so much so quickly.
Particularly when people are already like handing you stretch goal after stretch goal to work on.
Yeah.
I hate stretch goals. I really do.
Everyone does. But well, I should say that everyone except crowdfunding backers hate them. People who run crowdfunders are not big fans.
I'm my next campaign is gonna be no Kickstarters until I'll give like a ridiculously high goal, and then all right, I'll do one. But let's see, Mike can do the conversions if we pay him, right? And he says, I love stretch goals. I used to be the writer for the conversions for Iconic Legends, and then I had a kid, and I got a more demanding job, and I just haven't had time to, because Jacob writes very thorough and complete stat blocks. And Indeed. Sometimes converting those faithfully over to icons can be a bit of a challenge, because the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, and Marvel, rendered in Mutants and Masterminds, if you're being fully faithful to its comic history, that's a stat block about like this. It's maybe a little bit longer.
The comic history of any character who's got a history that's 60 plus years long, is always a challenge.
Well, there's powers you don't think about that the Hulk has. Like, apparently, if I'm right, Jacob, remember the stat block, he can go back to the exact location where he was, he can sense radiation.
Yep.
And he can also always find his way back to the location. No matter how lost he gets, he can always find his way back to where he was turned into the Hulk.
Yep. And he can see astral forms.
Yeah, those are things you think about when you're introduced to the character with that Bill Bixby show back in the 70s. It just never came. Bill was hitchhiking. He was sad music. Someone picked him up. He got mad. Lou Ferrigno came out with a green food cone.
The Incredible Hulk TV show would be an entirely different build, and maybe I'll write that up someday. But it would be much more simple than the build I use for the character in Superpowered Legends, who is Grendel, by the way.
That's fair. Michael Mendoza says, perhaps characters more obscure powers, like Submariner's electric eel power. Ooh, I'm intrigued. Could be lumped under a quality and power stunt. Yes, I would argue.
I would absolutely agree, Michael.
Yes.
No one says any product gets used less than once a year is just a power stunt.
Agreed.
Indeed.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about a indie webcomic that I won't name drop on the show, and the author of this comic has a habit of bringing back plotline and characters from over a decade ago without any reintroduction. Remember the old X-Men book back in the days when I was like, and here's the X-Men.
Yep.
Born to protect a nation that hates and fears them. Wolverine, Storm, and they give you that page like, okay, here's the characters, here's what they are. He doesn't do that. It's, on the Discord, like, can we just get an expiration date? If I haven't seen a character on panel in 5 years, dead, doesn't exist.
Can we just decide we're done with them?
You got to reintroduce them. You can't get mad if I don't remember them because I got big boy stuff to think about. I don't always remember.
Remember those editorial footnotes that always used to tell you the last issue that somebody showed up in, or the plot that the characters are talking about that they reference that happened however many years ago? I tell you, I ended up hunting through more long boxes for back issue bins to track down. I would have a notebook and notes okay, I need to find that story because I don't know what was happening. They're talking about this footnote.
I've talked to a few comic book writers on this podcast over the years, and I was talking to a British writer who wrote a very famous version of the Galaxy, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he had before that done an interesting take on Nova. And I was like, hey there, charming British writer whose name begins with the letter D. I noticed you did a lot of plight scenes in your last big event for the Nova Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And you left the book, and everyone at Marvel just let that drop like a Led Zeppelin and didn't pick up any of those. You introduced whole new characters who were just gone. He's like, oh, yeah, fuck those guys. I remember a time when that wouldn't happen in Marvel Comics, but yeah. And everyone says, also, Mike is making simpler stat blocks, frees up more time. Don't make faithful conversions. There won't be a test. People just want art, a background, enough rules to run a game. Skip anything too complex. You and Jacob have different philosophies on this, sir.
I try to be faithful to the characters, but the fact is, Mutants and Masterminds is a completely different system than Icons.
Indeed.
Icons stresses the simplicity. So, I would really recommend if you for those going for icon characters, aim for the simple. Just do power stunts for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Owen's pulling rank on you here, buddy.
Right.
Yeah, but as the publisher. And Sean Ware says, so, Steve, what was the first time that you see a footnote in a comic and realized that they made it up completely? 1963, Alan Moore's Image Comics for me.
I don't know if it was 1963 or if it was, I think it was either that or Supreme when Alan Moore was writing that I think, but not sure. There were definitely some instances where, things were either stuff I couldn't track down, or it was a reference where I was like, oh, that comic book is like $1,000. I'm not getting that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's limits. I'm a fan, but
yeah.
Hey, I thought we could share, Steve. We haven't talked about in a while on this. The Icons Patreon.
Oh yeah. There we go. That's me.
Patreon.com/Steve Kenson.
Yep.
You can join for free. The first paid tier is ridiculously cheap. It's 90 cents, folks. It's less than the cost of a single egg these days, at least where I live.
Yep.
And the most expensive tier is $5 a month, which is less than a cup of coffee in those places.
I am compelled to remind folks that if you, for some reason, access Patreon on your iOS devices, please do not subscribe that way, as Apple tacks on a fairly substantial fee to that. Please use the web browser of your choice, usually on your desktop device, to subscribe.
And it looks like they can get discounted copies of some of the annuals here. At least
folks can pick up the compiled PDFs on the online store on my Patreon as well as Drive-Thru RPG.
Okay, awesome. That is good. So check it out. Very active Patreon, almost 160 members, over 250 posts. So you're a fan of superheroes RP, Steve, a lot of his articles, it's kind of like the old GURP setting books. If you're running superhero games in general, Steve writes about subgenres, tropes, different ways of GMing, this and that. If you're running any superhero system, I would argue this is very useful for you, well worth the expense and the read. So, and Owen says, I think America's Best Comics got me on fake fitness. Or false.
Also, Alan Moore, by the way.
Yeah.
Alan Moore's from Lying Lineman. What's he doing?
I was going to say master of the fake footnote, really.
Is that a thing you have to do as like a cleric of Lycon? Are you required to lie to people?
I guess. Well, I mean, yeah, Lycon is basically kind of a con, so I guess that would make sense.
I mean, it's the
literal sock puppet. So
there's something about that story that is just so endearing. It's someone who just sets up their own religion in ancient Rome with a literal snake puppet with a blonde wig and makes it work like he's L. Ron Hubbard or something.
Indeed.
Alan Moore is Truthford. His beer is a layer. His beer is a liar.
Mm-hmm.
I like it better as a layer, but I'll accept you there.
Chance in layer. Very high.
Have you heard the Mikey Mason song, Alan Moore's Beard?
No,
but I feel like I have to now.
There is a wonderful comedy singer named Mikey Mason. I recommend you listen to everything he does. But one of his songs is called Alan Moore's Beard, and it's all the adventures he and Alan Moore's beard, not Alan Moore, just his beard, have with all the adventures they go on.
Sean Sarah says, by the way, the POD for icons look great. I have every one of them in hardcover. Awesome.
Thanks, Sean.
And Owen says, I've heard it both ways, layer or liar. I kind of like the idea of a miniature superhero now living in Alan Moore's beard and having adventures.
Right.
It's like his bat cave. But,
beard cave.
Beard cave. Have I ever heard you guys Tempo the Time Monkey? Jumping back to our earlier discussion of time traveling simians.
I don't think so.
No one remembers Tempo the Time Monkey? Okay.
I don't believe so, no.
David Bednarski is a favorite artist of mine. And this is his character, Tempo the Time Monkey.
I like it.
I love his style. I love this guy. Yeah, he did the cover for Agents of Banff and a couple of my Improbable Tales adventures. Yeah, he's got this nice cartoony. Yeah, I would buy all the DVDs for a show with this little guy. And
Right. It's funny. We just finished a series of time travel adventures, trilogy for M&M, and the first one features a time traveling Nazi gorilla. So I mean, apparently time traveling simians are just a thing.
Well, monkeys are fun. Time travel is fun. I think it's long past time for a monkey Doctor Who.
Right.
Where the power of the follicle, says Owen, going back to our Alan Moore's beard superhero lair. So it's almost more fun if it's a super villain. Moore's beard as a hideout.
Right.
I can talk about this all night, guys. I'm going to stop right now. I have to hide. It's tempting. I have to avoid it. So, like tequila, nothing's good's going to happen if I follow that path of thinking. All right, guys. Icons Annual 4. Check it out, folks. tinyurl.com / Icons Annual 4. Man, I was so professional making up a tiny URL, and then I said it way too fast and messed it up. Going back on all my professionalism, but tinyurl.com / Icons Annual 4, the full radio voice, and Jacob's project, which you can find at tinyurl.com / Superpowered Legends. Check out both of those projects. These are great, guys. These are fun products. Who wants the last word, guys?
Jacob, all yours.
Banff. I always recommend checking out the Banff Podcast Patreon. Helps this channel stay up and helps us talk to fun and interesting people like Steve.
Steve, what's your last word?
I would suggest that folks check out all of the great third-party Icons products that you folks are putting out.
Indeed. I haven't done one in a while, but I know there's an active publishing community, so definitely check it out.
There's a ton.
Yeah. Go over to Drive-Thru-RPG, hit the tab for rules, hit icons, and you'll find a lot of cool stuff. And it's a fun system. I can't recommend it highly enough. So,
yeah, if you're looking for adventures for your superhero games, Fainting Goat Games has published a ton of
Yes.
Improbable Adventures, Improbable
Improbable
Tales,
Tales. Yeah.
and they are fantastic adventures for your games.
They are fun. I often feature cheeky fake ads for snacking.
Yes.
So,
That
yeah.
involve pies
That
and
involve fruit
and
pies.
fruit
Yeah.
pies.
You ever get to the end of a PDF and you're like, there's a licensing page. I feel sad. I do, folks. And that's why I put fake ads. Calling back to a simpler age of comics. Right in the end of every PDF. So on that happy note, folks, thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast this Saturday night. I know it's getting late for Steve, and he likes to get to bed at a reasonable hour because,
Because I'm old.
I'm a similar age. I'm right there with you. It says, I begin to wonder if I'm a better guest if I have to type my jokes.
This might be a new thing for you, Owen.
I wish we could get you like some kind of virtual avatar that would just
turn Owen into a VTuber.
Yeah,
there are worse ideas. Yeah, that could be fun.
Right.
So we tried having Stan use the puppet for Owen, but he was inconsistent in his puppetry last night. So I don't think we got the full effect of that. So, or maybe just I'll be a font of humor. Yeah, a font of humor. So, folks, thanks for tuning in tonight. This has been a lot of fun. Check out Owen's and Jacob's project. Check out Steve's project. We'll catch you next time on the BAMF podcast.
Good night, everybody.